Well, one stock bucking the breakdown is Apple. The tech titan is up nearly 6.5% in just the last week. So is Apple headed higher from here, or is it only a matter of time before it joins the rest of the tech wreck? Let's go off the charts with Inside Edge Capital Management partner Todd Gordon. Todd, what are you looking at?
Hey guys, how are you? Apple, why not? We like it. It's about 7% of our growth portfolio, 2.5% of the dividend. If you take a look at the first chart, now the weekly, we really need to get above sort of this 161 level. This is a weekly candlestick chart. So if we close above it, sort of this upward sloping move that we've seen since September of 2020 is over. And what's interesting, though, is though we've seen outperformance in Apple, it's actually been underperforming the S&P and certainly the NASDAQ, the NDX, since August. Okay, so just recently we've begun to push higher on the news of a car. And again, we need to get above 161 to get that moving. And with this sharp move higher in rates and inflation, it's challenging the ability for growth to continue to lead higher. But one chart I want to throw in front of you guys is what if we take Apple and put it over the dollar? We're actually seeing a correlation of Apple and tech, and specifically hardware, with this increasing interest rate environment with the dollar. So yeah, I get it. They take 60% of their revenues overseas. And I think part of the reason we're seeing this, maybe this move into growth, and again, we have broken out growth relative to value, is perhaps this dollar strength is acting as a bit of a tightener monetary policy, cooling off the inflation report. And again, those hardware companies that make real money, as you said earlier, perhaps the input costs that are going into the iPhone, perhaps, which is a 50% markup. They make it for 500, sell it for 1,000. A lot of input costs are outside of China, priced in dollars, so perhaps helps the margins there a little bit.
All right, Todd, good to see you. Thanks, Todd Gordon. Here's a question. Is Apple in this market growth or value? Is Apple growth or value? Pete, does it matter?
Yeah, I don't know that it matters. I mean, I always view, when I look at Apple, I look at Facebook, and I look at some of the other names, Microsoft, and I look at them and I say, you know what? Look at what they generate from a cash flow perspective. Look at where they trade. Yes, they trade at a higher PE now, Mel, than they once did. But in many cases, we're talking about companies that have morphed into something a little different than they might have been as recently as the last couple of years, and especially when you look at Microsoft and obviously the move towards cloud. But I would say the same thing about Apple as well. It was all about the phone, and then eventually we started moving away from the phone. We started looking at services. We started looking more at wearables and all of the rest of the things that Apple's been doing. So I think it's just a matter of looking at these companies and saying, you know what, there was a very good pause, and that was something I liked hearing Todd talk about that, because July till almost the beginning of November, the stock basically had paused after making a pretty substantial run in the previous 6 months before that. And I think that's part of the healthiness of what we're exactly talking about here, which is we see the different sectors that lead, and then all of a sudden something else comes in place, and then we get a pause. And I didn't view that negatively. I viewed it as an opportunity for names like Apple and maybe particularly Facebook, but Apple, Facebook, and maybe even throw in Microsoft, Amazon, whatever. But when they started to make a little bit of a move recently, we're starting to see a pretty dramatic move to the upside. And I think these are all quality names. They have great cash flows. When you look at the bottom line of what they are doing as companies, they are never stopping where they are and where they're looking forward to in the future. Apple's been talking about this car forever. They've stolen from Tesla for a while now, and we've all been waiting. Now we're starting to hear a little bit more and more about this autonomous car and all the rest of the things that Apple might have into the future. So they are not just looking at just the phone. They continue to view outside of the company itself. I think there's a lot of growth there, Mel. I think there's growth there. I think there's growth in Facebook. I can still see it in Microsoft. I think those big FANG names still have plenty.